This is In the Loop. I'm Christian Bryant. Earth Day is coming up this Saturday, and we've been preparing here at ITL all week long. Today, we're heading to the Atlantic Ocean to investigate a maritime mystery that's been brewing along the East Coast.
Concern at the Jersey Shore after yet another whale washed up on an Atlantic City beach.
2 more whales were found dead in the past 2 days.
A second whale death in Hampton Roads this year.
The clash over what's causing whale deaths erupted today at the state capitol.
According to federal data, over 30 whales have been found washed up along the eastern shore since December 1st, with over a dozen of them off the coast of New York and New Jersey. To get a sense of just how unusual that is, take a look at this data from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Since 2016, NOAA has recorded unusual strandings for species like humpback whales or the endangered North Atlantic right whale. There's been a sudden jump in just the first few months of this year, already almost matching the total strandings for all of 2022. Meanwhile, back on shore, the debate over what's causing this has turned political. Development for offshore wind farms has taken off in recent years in the North Atlantic. Some activists have called to halt the projects, believing the wind farm construction is what's causing the deaths.
One way to do that would be to just stop all the noise and make sure that the offshore wind activity is not contributing to these whale deaths. We're not opposed to the idea of offshore wind development, but we want to make sure it's done right.
Opponents of the renewable energy projects have seized on the story as proof the projects are doing more harm than good. But 3 federal scientific agencies have disagreed. In January, NOAA and the U.S. Bureau of Ocean Energy Management said there was no evidence linking the whale deaths with prep work for the wind farms. In late February, the Marine Mammal Commission agreed with the findings, even pushing back on the idea that the number of whale deaths is unusual. Early this month, NOAA determined at least one project off the coast of New Jersey, quote, is likely to adversely affect, but is not likely to jeopardize, the continued existence of any species. Let's step back for a second here and look at the wider context for where these findings are coming from and what else might be going on that could explain the whale strandings. Shipping and boat traffic on the East Coast has ramped up dramatically in the last couple of years. Last year, for the first time in over 20 years, the Port of New York and New Jersey became the busiest port in the United States. It held the title for 4 months last year and then reclaimed the throne earlier this year. This is coinciding with an increase of whales in the area. Just ask Joy Reidenberg, who is an expert on comparative anatomy and marine mammals in particular.
We're like, oh, we're all upset because there's so many whales dying. That's true. We are upset about so many whales dying. But we're also slightly happy because that means we have so many whales. We've done such a good job protecting the whales that the population has grown tremendously.
Joy is one of many researchers that gets called to the scene to try and figure out why a whale died. And as she explained to us, the biggest problem here is just the lack of data.
And trying to do the detective work to pin that down means we have to have a fresh carcass. If the carcass is decomposed, there's very little information we can get. And a very large number of the carcasses that we get are in that condition, which means that it's a little bit of a mystery.
There's been speculation online that the noise from the construction has been enough to disrupt whale communication, which relies on complex whale songs and calls. The theory is that the disruption leads to more collisions. But we should note, most of the whales that have been found are humpback whales, which don't use sound for navigation. And some experts note the sounds of the seismic surveys used to build wind farms are at a tolerable level for humpback whales.
A seismic survey is sound put into the water to investigate the substrate of the ocean floor and figure out whether that's a good substrate upon which to build a wind farm. So you don't want to put it on sand, you want to put it on rock, whatever. Whales have been observed feeding around seismic survey ships. They don't seem to care about the seismic survey ships. So that's a pretty good indicator that the frequencies that these ships are using are not bothering whales, because it's not interfering with their normal behavior of feeding.
That would also be much quieter than the drilling and seismic surveys typically used to search the ocean floor for oil and gas. Since those are deeper under the ocean floor, the sound wavelengths need to be louder and at lower frequencies.
They've been in use for many years now. So if there was an uptick in whale strandings, we would have noticed it a long time ago. So I really don't think seismic surveys are an issue.
But ultimately, as Joy pointed out, we just don't have enough data to be completely clear about the causes here. So lawmakers are calling for further research to be sure what's behind the sudden deaths for whales. In late March, a group of Democratic senators urged NOAA to further research causes behind the whale deaths. Across states from Maine to South Carolina, more funding has been put into research and monitoring for the wind farm's operation. So there's currently no evidence linking the prep for offshore wind farms with the sudden, recent rise of whale deaths. But that won't stop the debate from dominating headlines, and it won't stop activists on both sides of the issue from demanding answers.